sound begins before you open your eyes. It is not a single noise, but many layered together thoughts overlapping, memories colliding, worries speaking over one another like voices in a crowded room with no walls. You wake up already tired, your chest tight, as if you have been holding your breath all night. The ceiling above you feels too close, the morning light too sharp, like it's accusing you of something you can't name. You lie still for a moment, hoping the noise will fade if you don't move. It doesn't. It never does. You get up because that is what you do. You move through your routine on autopilot, brushing your teeth while your mind races ahead of the day, replaying yesterday, predicting disasters that haven't happened yet. Your reflection looks familiar but distant, like someone you know well but don't trust. You meet your own eyes and feel a strange disconnect, as if the person staring back is holding something back from you. There is no dramatic tragedy in your life. No single moment you can point to and say, this is where it all broke. And yet, something feels wrong. Something feels loud. Outside, the world moves fast. Cars rush past. People talk into phones. Screens flash with news, demands, and expectations. Everyone seems to know where they're going. You walk among them, invisible and exposed at the same time. Inside your head, the commentary never stops. You should be doing more. You should be better by now. Why can't you just calm down? These thoughts don't sound cruel when they appear. They sound reasonable, responsible, necessary, but they leave you tense, your shoulders permanently raised, your jaw clenched like you're bracing for impact. You learned early how to stay alert. Even as a child, there was a sense that you needed to be prepared to read the room, to adjust yourself to what was expected. You became good at it. Too good. You learned how to anticipate reactions, how to avoid conflict, how to hide confusion behind competence. People praised you for being mature, for being strong. They didn't see the cost. They didn't hear the noise that followed you everywhere, the constant evaluation of your own worth. At work, at school, in relationships, you perform, you show up, you smile at the right moments. You say, I'm fine, even when your chest feels heavy, even when your mind feels like it's running a marathon with no finish line. On the outside, your life looks functional, even successful. On the inside, it feels like standing next to a machine that never turns off. You don't remember the last time you felt truly quiet. Sometimes, in rare moments of stillness, the noise grows louder instead of softer. When you lie awake at night, the day replays itself in your mind. Every conversation is examined. Every mistake is magnified. You remember things you wish you had said differently, moments you wish you could erase. The past feels alive, breathing down your neck, while the future looms like a list of impossible demands. Your heart beats faster, and you wonder if this is just how life feels for everyone, or if something inside you is breaking. You tell yourself to be grateful. Others have it worse. You haven't lost everything. You're not falling apart in any visible way. This logic keeps you going, but it also keeps you silent. You don't allow yourself to admit how exhausted you are. You don't give yourself permission to struggle. Somewhere along the way, you learn that needing rest, needing help, needing peace meant weakness. So you keep going. You push through. You endure. The noise inside you is not just thoughts. It's emotion trapped without a name. Fear that never fully surfaces. Sadness that hides behind productivity. Anger you swallow because it feels dangerous to express. All of it lives in your body, in the tightness of your chest, in the shallow way you breathe, in the constant hum of tension beneath your skin. Your body knows something your mind keeps ignoring. There are moments when you catch yourself staring into space, completely disconnected from what's happening around you. Someone calls your name and you flinch, as if pulled back from somewhere far away. You laugh it off. Just tired, you say. But the truth is heavier. You're not just tired. You are overwhelmed by your own inner world, a world that never learned how to rest. You try to fix it the way you fixed everything else. You search for answers, productivity hacks, motivation videos, self-improvement plans. You tell yourself that once you get more disciplined, more organized, more in control, the noise will stop. But every attempt to fix yourself only adds another layer of pressure. Another voice saying you should be better at this too. The noise doesn't disappear. It multiplies. There are days when anxiety hits without warning. Your heart races for no clear reason. Your hands feel cold. Your thoughts spiral. You look around searching for danger, but nothing is wrong, and yet everything feels wrong. You tell yourself to calm down. It's nothing, you whisper, but your body doesn't listen. It's holding on to something old, something unresolved. In quiet moments, a question begins to surface, one you quickly push away because it feels dangerous. What if the problem isn't that you're broken? What if the problem is that you've been fighting yourself for too long? The thought scares you. Fighting feels familiar. It feels like control. Letting go feels like falling into darkness. So you stay busy. You stay distracted. You fill every empty space with sound, with movement, with noise. Silence feels unbearable because silence is where you might hear yourself, and you're not sure you're ready for that. But late one evening, when the world finally slows, when the lights are dim and the city hum softens, the noise inside you changes. It becomes heavier, deeper, less frantic, more ominous. You feel it in your chest, a pressure that feels like grief without a clear cause. You sit alone staring at nothing, and for the first time, you don't reach for a distraction right away. A thought rises, quiet, but unmistakable. You can't keep living like this. It doesn't come with a solution. It doesn't offer comfort. It simply sits there, heavy and true. You feel something else with it, fear. Not the sharp fear of danger, but the slow, creeping fear of what might happen if you keep ignoring what's happening inside you. The noise hasn't stopped. If anything, it feels closer now, more personal. Like it's not just surrounding you, but coming from somewhere deeper than thoughts. From a place you've avoided for years, you sense that beneath the noise, there is something waiting, something unfinished, something that demands to be felt. You don't know it yet, but this is only the beginning. The noise inside you is not random. It is a signal, and soon, whether you're ready or not, it will force you to listen. The mask forms before you are aware of it. It slips into place the moment you step outside yourself, smooth and practiced, shaped by years of repetition. You don't feel it settle, but you feel its weight. It presses gently against your face, shaping your expressions, regulating your voice, deciding what parts of you are allowed to be seen. By the time you realize you're wearing it, it already feels permanent, like skin you were born with rather than something you learned to survive. You move through the world with this mask on, and people respond to it instantly. They see someone composed, capable, dependable, someone who has it together. You know the posture by heart, shoulders back, head steady, eyes alert but controlled. You know how to smile without revealing too much, how to nod at the right moments, how to say the correct words even when they feel hollow. I'm good, just busy. Yeah, I can handle it. The phrases roll off your tongue so easily they no longer feel like lies. They feel like currency. This is how you learn to stay safe. Long before you understood what you were doing, you learned that being too much was dangerous, too emotional, too sensitive, too honest. Somewhere in your early life, maybe in a quiet moment or a sharp one, you absorbed the lesson that parts of you were inconvenient, that showing uncertainty made others uncomfortable, that expressing fear invited judgment. You watched how approval came when you were calm, useful, strong, so you adapted. You hid what trembled. You polished what performed. The world rewarded you for it. Teachers praised your discipline. Friends leaned on your reliability. Family members admired your strength. You became the one who didn't break, the one who kept going, the one who handled things. Each compliment reinforced the mask, made it thicker, more convincing. You began to believe that this version of you was the real one, and the rest was something to be managed privately, quietly, alone. But behind the mask, there is a constant vigilance, a subtle scanning of the room. You read faces the way sailors read the sky, searching for signs of danger, disapproval, disappointment. You adjust yourself without thinking. Tone softer here, confidence stronger there. You become a shapeshifter, not because you are fake, but because you are afraid of what might happen if you stayed still. There are moments when the mask cracks, when you laugh too hard or feel something rise unexpectedly in your chest. When a question hits too close or a memory slips through the cracks, you feel it then, a sharp panic, and you quickly smooth yourself over. You joke, you deflect, you change the subject. It's nothing, you say, even to yourself, especially to yourself. Inside, the gap between who you appear to be and who you feel yourself to be grows wider. You feel like an actor who never leaves the stage, even when the lights go out. Alone, the mask doesn't fully come off. You don't know how. Without an audience, you feel strangely exposed, unsure what expression to wear, what voice to use. Silence feels awkward, heavy. You reach for your phone, the TV, anything that fills the space where your true self might speak. You tell yourself this is normal. Everyone wears masks. Everyone performs. This is just adulthood, you think. Responsibility, maturity. But there is a difference you can't ignore. Your mask isn't something you put on and take off. It is fused to you, and the cost of wearing it is starting to show. Your body carries the strain. Tension lives in your neck and shoulders like a permanent resident. Your breath stays shallow, as if you're always preparing to explain yourself. Even moments of rest feel uneasy, like you're doing something wrong by stopping. You don't remember the last time you felt fully relaxed without guilt creeping in. Sometimes, when you catch your reflection unexpectedly, you don't recognize yourself right away. There's a blankness in your eyes, a distance that startles you. You look fine. You always look fine. But something essential feels missing, like a room in your own house you've locked for years and forgotten how to open. You begin to notice how often you abandon yourself to maintain the mask. You say yes when your body says no. You agree when something inside you resists. You silence your needs because they feel inconvenient, embarrassing, or selfish. The mask demands sacrifice, and you pay it willingly, believing that being needed is the same as being valued. But late at night, when no one is watching, the exhaustion hits harder. The mask grows heavy. Your thoughts slow, and something raw presses against the surface. A feeling without a clear name. Loneliness, maybe. Or grief. Or a deep, aching sadness that doesn't belong to any single moment, but to all the moments you swallowed whole. You remember times you almost let it slip, moments when you were close to saying, "I'm not okay," times when your voice trembled and you quickly laughed it off. You wonder what would have happened if you had let the truth out. Would anyone have stayed? Would you have been too much? The fear answers quickly, sharply, before hope can speak. So you keep the mask on. The world continues to see your strength, and you continue to feel hollow. The contradiction becomes harder to ignore. You feel like you're living two lives, the visible one that functions and the hidden one that aches. And the longer you maintain the illusion, the more you fear what would happen if it shattered. One evening, after another long day of being everything to everyone, you sit alone in a dimly lit room. The quiet feels different now, heavier, less forgiving. You feel the mask pressing against your face, suffocating instead of protecting. For the first time, you don't immediately distract yourself. You sit there, breathing shallow, heart heavy, and a thought slips through your defenses. If I keep wearing this, I might disappear completely. The realization scares you more than any external threat ever has, because for the first time, you sense that the mask isn't just hiding your pain, it's hiding you, and beneath it, something fragile and forgotten is stirring, something that has been waiting a long time to be seen. You don't know it yet, but the mask is starting to crack, and when it does, what comes out won't be neat or controlled. It will be raw, it will be overwhelming, and it will demand that you finally face what you've been running from all along. You don't notice when the running begins. There is no starting gun, no dramatic moment where you decide to flee. It starts quietly, disguised as momentum. One task leads to another. One obligation stacks on top of the next. Your calendar fills. Your phone never stops lighting up. Your days become crowded enough that there's no room left for silence. And you tell yourself, this is progress. This is life. This is what it means to keep going. But beneath the movement, something is chasing you. The hook tightens on an ordinary morning. You're walking fast, almost too fast, cutting through the street as if you're late for something important, though you're not entirely sure what. Your breath is shallow, your jaw clenched. People blur past you. Sounds overlap. Your mind is already ahead, rehearsing conversations, predicting outcomes, solving problems that don't exist yet. You are not here. You are never fully here. And that's the point. You've learned that staying in motion keeps the questions quiet. When you're busy, the ache dulls. When you're productive, the doubt retreats. When you're surrounded by noise, the deeper feelings stay buried. So you keep moving. You wake up and immediately reach for your phone. Messages, updates, notifications. Proof that the world still needs you. Proof that you don't have to sit with yourself yet. You fill your time with purpose, or at least with activity that looks like purpose. Work stretches beyond its edges. Even rest becomes another performance, optimized and scheduled. You listen to podcasts, scroll endlessly, keep background noise playing even when you're alone. Silence feels dangerous, like an open door you don't want to walk through, because silence is where you might hear your own voice, and you don't trust what it might say. You tell yourself you're just ambitious, just driven, just trying to build something. And maybe that's partly true, but if you're honest, there's another layer beneath it, a fear that if you slow down, everything you've been holding back will catch up to you. That if you stop running, you'll have to feel what you've been avoiding. Your body knows the truth before your mind does. Fatigue settles into your bones no matter how much you sleep. Your chest feels tight for no clear reason. There's a low-grade anxiety humming under your skin, like an engine that never turns off. You tell yourself to push through it. You always do. But pushing doesn't make it go away. It just drives it deeper. There are moments, small and unsettling, when the running falters. You're stuck in traffic, waiting in line, sitting alone in a quiet room, and suddenly, there it is, a wave of discomfort, rising fast and without explanation. Your heart beats harder, your thoughts scatter, you feel exposed, even though no one is watching. A voice inside whispers, "Don't stop, do something." And you obey immediately, reaching for distraction like a lifeline. You don't remember when you learned this pattern. Maybe it started when you were young, when staying busy meant staying useful, staying out of trouble, staying safe. Maybe you learned that slowing down made you vulnerable, that stillness invited emotions you didn't have the language for. Whatever the origin, the habit is now deeply wired. Running feels normal. Stopping feels wrong. The world reinforces it. Hustle is praised. Stillness is misunderstood. People admire your energy, your dedication, your ability to juggle everything. They don't see the cost. They don't see how every distraction is a small escape, how every packed schedule is another mile between you and yourself, and you don't correct them. Their admiration feeds the pattern, gives you another reason to keep going. At night, when the day finally loosens its grip, the running changes shape. Your body lies still, but your mind keeps sprinting. Thoughts race through worst-case scenarios, unfinished conversations, imagined futures. Sleep comes late and lightly. You wake up feeling like you've been running all night, chased by something you can't see but feel in your chest. You wonder sometimes what would happen if you stopped, if you didn't fill the silence, if you let yourself feel bored, lonely, uncertain. The thought alone makes your stomach tighten. It feels like standing at the edge of a dark room, knowing there's something inside but refusing to turn on the light. You tell yourself it's safer not to know. But there are cracks now, moments when the running doesn't work like it used to. You achieve something you worked hard for, and the satisfaction fades almost immediately. You distract yourself perfectly, and the discomfort still leaks through. The escape routes are failing, and that scares you more than the feelings themselves. One evening, you find yourself alone with no immediate task to cling to. The room is quiet, too quiet. You sit there, restless, your foot tapping unconsciously. You reach for your phone, then stop. For reasons you don't fully understand, you don't turn it on. The silence stretches, thick and uncomfortable. Your breath feels loud. Your heartbeat feels exposed. And then it happens. A feeling surfaces, raw and unfiltered. Not a thought, not a story, just a sensation, heavy in your chest, pressing outward. It feels like sadness, but older, deeper, like something you've been carrying for years without acknowledging. Your instinct is to push it away, to get up, to do something, anything. But you hesitate. In that hesitation, memories flicker at the edges of your awareness. Moments you never fully processed, emotions you never allowed yourself to feel. You sense how much of your life has been built around avoiding this exact moment. How the running was never about ambition or productivity. It was about survival. A voice rises, quiet but firm, cutting through the noise. What are you so afraid of feeling? The question lands hard. You don't have an answer ready. And that, more than anything, unsettles you. You realize you've been running for so long that you don't know what's behind you anymore. You only know that stopping feels like standing in front of something vast and unknown. The room feels smaller now, the air heavier. The feeling in your chest grows stronger, demanding attention. You sense that if you stay here, truly stay, something will break open. Not gently, not neatly, and part of you knows there's no going back once that happens. You sit there, caught between the urge to flee and the pull to finally face what you've been avoiding. The running has kept you alive, but it has also kept you disconnected. And now, for the first time, you feel it clearly. You can't keep running forever. The feeling doesn't fade, it deepens, and as it does, you sense that what's coming next will not be another distraction, another escape. It will be a confrontation with your body, with your fear, with the truth you've been outrunning your entire life. The voice doesn't shout, it whispers. That's what makes it terrifying. It slips into your thoughts when you're tired, when you're quiet, when your guard is down, and it sounds so much like your own mind that you don't question it. Not yet. Not enough. You should be more by now. You wake up with it. You carry it through the day. You fall asleep beneath its weight. And slowly, without noticing the moment it happens, you begin to live inside a trance. The hook arrives in a mirror. You catch your reflection in passing, maybe in a glass window or a dark phone screen, and for a split second, you don't recognize yourself. Not because you look different, but because the eyes staring back seem endlessly dissatisfied. They scan for flaws, they measure, they compare. Even before the thought forms, the verdict is already there. Still not enough. The world you move through feeds the spell. Everywhere you look, there are markers of success, happiness, worth, people achieving faster, brighter, louder, lives curated into highlights. Stories that suggest everyone else has figured it out while you're still behind. You tell yourself you're immune to it, that you know it's not real, not complete. But knowledge doesn't break a trance. Repetition strengthens it. You begin to see your life as a checklist that's always one step ahead of you. When you reach a goal, the finish line moves. When you improve, the standard rises. Satisfaction becomes brief, almost embarrassing, like you're not allowed to rest in it for too long. Pride feels dangerous, as if acknowledging it might make you lazy, might expose you as a fraud. So you keep tightening the rules. You keep raising the bar. This trance didn't start yesterday. It has roots. Maybe it began when praise was conditional, when love felt linked to performance, when approval came only after achievement. Maybe you learned early that being yourself wasn't quite enough, that you had to earn your place by excelling, pleasing, proving. Over time, the lesson hardened into a belief: I am valued for what I do, not for what I am. Now, even when no one is watching, the pressure remains. Especially then, you become both prisoner and guard, constantly evaluating your own worth. Every mistake feels like evidence. Every success feels temporary, fragile, about to be taken away. You don't celebrate, you brace yourself. You don't rest, you prepare for the next test. Inside the trance, time feels strange. The present moment is never sufficient. It's always a stepping stone to something else. You're either replaying the past, cataloging where you fell short, or projecting into the future, imagining a version of yourself who will finally be enough. You live in anticipation, not in experience. Life passes through you without fully landing. There are moments when the trance tightens suddenly, like a noose pulled without warning. A small failure, a comparison that hits too close, a comment that wasn't meant to hurt but does. Your chest contracts, your thoughts spiral, the voice grows louder. See, this is why. This is what happens when you're not good enough. You replay the moment again and again, searching for how you should have been different. You start to curate yourself the same way the world curates its images. You show competence, strength, control. You hide doubt, fear, softness. Vulnerability feels like proof of inadequacy, something that must be concealed. You smile when you're exhausted. You say, I'm fine when you're unraveling. You become skilled at appearing whole while feeling fractured underneath. The tragedy is that the trance promises relief, but never delivers it. It tells you that if you just improve enough, achieve enough, fix enough, the voice will finally go quiet. That peace is just one more accomplishment away. So you chase it, harder, faster, relentlessly. And the chase becomes your identity. At night, when the world dims, the trance doesn't sleep. You lie awake replaying your day, scoring yourself like a harsh judge. You remember what you didn't say, what you said wrong, what you could have done better. Your body is tired, but your mind is alert, scanning for threats to your worth. Rest feels undeserved, and yet there are cracks, fleeting moments when something doesn't fit the story. A quiet kindness from a stranger, a laugh that feels unforced, a moment of stillness where you forget, just briefly, to measure yourself. In those moments, there's a softness, a sense of being okay without proof. The trance wavers, and immediately the voice rushes back in. Don't get comfortable. Don't forget who you are. You begin to sense how much of your suffering is internal, how the harshest critic you face lives inside your own mind. But knowing this doesn't free you. If anything, it adds another layer of judgment. Why can't you just stop thinking like this? Why aren't you better at being calm, healed, whole? Even your awareness becomes another arena for not enoughness. One day, something shifts, not dramatically, quietly. You fail in a way you can't immediately fix. There's no quick solution, no way to spin it into growth or motivation. The trance demands punishment, demands that you spiral, that you reinforce the story of inadequacy. But you're too tired, too worn down to perform the ritual properly. You sit with the discomfort, not because you're brave, but because you have no energy left to run. The feeling of not being enough swells in your chest, heavy and familiar. And for the first time, you don't argue with it. You don't try to prove it wrong. You just feel it. It's unbearable. And then, slowly, something unexpected happens. Beneath the self-judgment, beneath the pressure and fear, there's another layer. Grief. Grief for how hard you've been on yourself. Grief for the years spent chasing a standard that never loved you back. The trance loosens, just enough for you to glimpse the cost of living this way. A question surfaces, not from the voice of judgment, but from somewhere deeper and quieter. What if the problem was never you? The thought feels dangerous, almost forbidden. If it's true, then the entire structure you've built your life around begins to shake. The trance resists. It tightens its grip, reminding you of all the reasons you shouldn't let go. Without it, who are you? Without striving, without proving, without measuring yourself against impossible standards, what's left? The fear is sharp and immediate. Emptiness, meaninglessness, collapse. But there's another possibility, faint but persistent. What if letting go doesn't lead to nothing, but to something you've never allowed yourself to experience? What if beneath the trance of not enough, There's a self that doesn't need constant justification. You don't have answers yet, only the sense that something fundamental is being questioned. The voice that once felt absolute now sounds slightly less certain, and that uncertainty, small as it is, feels like the beginning of a rupture as you sit there, caught between the old trance and an unknown alternative. You feel it approaching, not relief, not resolution, but a deeper descent, because before you can awaken from the trance, you will have to face the pain it was protecting you from, and that pain is closer now than it has ever been before. The first warning is subtle, almost easy to ignore. Your hands tremble as you reach for a cup of coffee. Your chest tightens in a way that feels foreign, yet undeniable. There's a heaviness in your shoulders, a deep ache at the base of your neck that no amount of stretching seems to reach. Your stomach knots and unknots in rhythm with a tension you can't name, and yet you tell yourself it's nothing, just stress, just another long day. You carry on, oblivious or pretending to be, but your body doesn't lie. The hook comes suddenly, in the middle of a crowded subway station. The air smells of damp metal and wet coats, and the muffled hum of tires and distant announcements fills your ears. People brush past you. Phones glow in hands like tiny beacons. You feel the usual pull to keep moving, to maintain focus, to stay small, unnoticed. Then, without warning, a sharp pang hits your chest, and your vision blurs around the edges. Your knees weaken, and for a heartbeat, the world teeters. The hum of the station crescendos in your head. You clutch the strap of your bag and tell yourself, breathe, you're fine, just breathe. But you're not fine. This is the first undeniable truth. The body remembers what the mind refuses to face. It speaks in tension, in fatigue, in sudden jolts of pain or panic. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't wait for permission. It simply insists that you listen, and for years, you have refused. You were taught early that showing weakness was dangerous, that emotion must be controlled, managed, compartmentalized. The lessons came quietly at first, in the subtle disapproval of a parent's sigh, a teacher's raised eyebrow, the teasing of a peer. Over time, you internalize the instruction. Feeling too much was dangerous. Needing too much was dangerous. Vulnerability was a liability. So you learn to mask, to suppress, to pretend that everything inside was under control, and your body carried the cost. You notice it first in minor ways. A twitch in your jaw that never goes away, an ache in your shoulders that even yoga can't release, an irregular heartbeat that arrives without warning. You dismiss them, you run, you work, you overthink, but the signals become harder to ignore. You are sitting at your desk late one night. The office is empty, fluorescent lights humming above. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, but your mind is elsewhere. You feel the tension in your chest coiling tighter than before. The panic arrives quietly, then spreads like wildfire. Your heart beats in uneven bursts. Your breath comes shallow, fast. You lean back in the chair, hands pressed over your sternum, whispering to yourself, "It's nothing. It's just stress." The whisper is a lie. Your body does not lie. And tonight, it will not be ignored. You begin to recognize the patterns. Every ache, every tremor, every sudden twinge is tied to an unspoken fear, a buried memory, an emotion you never allowed yourself to fully feel. Anxiety, depression, grief, exhaustion. They are not just thoughts. They are physical realities encoded in muscle, nerve, and bone. For years, you thought control was in the mind. Now you realize control is an illusion. The body always remembers what the mind tries to erase. You try to distract yourself. You scroll your phone, check emails, glance at the glowing screen like it can rescue you. But the body has a louder voice. Your chest constricts, your stomach knots, your head throbs, and somewhere deep beneath all the noise, a raw, urgent message pulses. Listen, stop, feel. You remember the first time your body truly spoke to you in a way you couldn't ignore. You were 15, sitting in a classroom that smelled faintly of chalk and old books. A teacher called on you unexpectedly, and your mind went blank. Your hands shook, your chest tightened, and the color drained from your face. You wanted to run, to disappear. You fumbled the words, stammered, and felt every eye in the room pin you down. You apologized afterward, muttering that you were fine, that it was nothing, but it was something. And from that moment on, your body carried the memory like a scar. Every ache, every pang sense has been a reminder. You trained yourself to ignore it, to push forward, to maintain appearances. But tonight, that training fails. You lie in bed later, staring at the ceiling. The room is dark except for a sliver of moonlight cutting through the curtains. Your chest still feels heavy, the thrum of your heart loud in your ears. You try to reason with it, to talk yourself back into control. You're fine, just tired. This is normal, but the body does not negotiate. It tightens, insists, reminds, and in the insistence, you realize something terrifying. You've been running from yourself all your life, running from the sensations that tell you you're alive, running from the fears and grief and anger you bury deep beneath masks of competence and strength. Your mind recoils. You want to run again, to distract, to flee, but the body has cornered you. And for the first time, you notice what the running has cost. Every ache, every sleepless night, every moment of anxiety is a map pointing back to the self you have been avoiding. There is a knock at the door, abrupt, startling, but you are alone. Just your imagination, perhaps, or perhaps the world intruding into the quiet. You shiver involuntarily. Even the smallest sound feels amplified. The tension in your body sharpens, every nerve ending alert, every breath shallow. You realize you are no longer just carrying stress, you are carrying unresolved years, hidden fears, and unacknowledged pain. And your body is beginning to demand reckoning. You sit up. You feel the weight in your chest as if it's an entity pressing against you, insisting you pay attention. You cradle your hands over it, and for a moment, you let yourself imagine what it would feel like to finally stop running, to finally hear your own body, to finally face what you've been avoiding. The thought is terrifying. It is darker than any external threat, heavier than any failure. Because this is not about work or money, about expectations or reputation. This is about confronting yourself, all of yourself. And you realize deep in your marrow that the moment is coming when you cannot ignore it any longer. A flicker of fear moves through your chest, faster than your heartbeat, and the shadows in the room seem to stretch, as if anticipating the reckoning. Something is coming. You can feel it. It is not distant. It is not abstract. It waits in the quiet, in the tension of your own body, demanding to be acknowledged. And when it arrives, whether you are ready or not, you know nothing will be the same. What happens when you can no longer hold it together? What happens when strength finally collapses under its own weight? The breaking point doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly, almost politely, as if it doesn't want to disturb the life you've worked so hard to maintain. It arrives on an ordinary day, in an ordinary moment, when nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. And that is what makes it devastating. You are doing what you always do, moving, performing, enduring. The world sees you functioning, maybe even succeeding. But inside, something is tearing. A pressure you have ignored for years has reached its limit. The body tightens, the mind races, the breath shortens. And suddenly, you realize with terrifying clarity, you cannot do this anymore. The moment freezes, sound dulls, time stretches thin. Your chest feels like it's caving inward, as if something heavy is pressing directly against your heart. You try to ground yourself counting breaths, repeating familiar reassurances, but the words fall apart in your mouth. They've lost their power. The old tricks don't work anymore. This is not panic alone. This is grief. This is exhaustion. This is the cost of running from yourself for too long. You may be alone or surrounded by people. It doesn't matter. The isolation is internal. No one can see the war happening inside you. Your face may still look composed, but inside, the structure you built your life on is cracking. The mask slips. The trance of not enough collapses under its own cruelty. And for the first time, you don't fight the collapse. You sink, maybe into a chair, maybe onto the floor, maybe into silence. Your body trembles, not from weakness, but from release. Years of suppressed fear, shame, and self-rejection surge forward all at once. You feel exposed, raw, undone. The part of you that always had to be strong is gone, at least for this moment. A voice rises, not the harsh one you know so well, not the critic, but something older and softer. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't demand. It simply asks, how long have you been carrying this alone? The question cuts deeper than any judgment ever has. Memories surface without warning. Moments you told yourself weren't a big deal. Times you swallowed your feelings to keep the peace. Times you pushed through pain because stopping felt like failure. Times you learned, quietly, that your worth depended on performance. The realization hits hard. The breaking point is not a flaw. It is the natural result of living at war with yourself. Tara Brach calls this moment the sacred pause. Though it doesn't feel sacred yet, it feels terrifying. Because when everything collapses, there is nowhere left to hide. No distraction, no achievement, no mask, just you, face to face with your own suffering. And something radical happens. Instead of trying to fix yourself, instead of scrambling to regain control, you stop. You breathe not deeply, not perfectly, but honestly. You allow the sensations to exist without trying to escape them. The tightness, the ache, the fear. You don't label them as failure. You don't push them away. For the first time, you let yourself feel without judgment. It feels wrong at first, dangerous, like letting go of a steering wheel at full speed. Every instinct tells you to regain control, to pull yourself together. But you don't. You stay. You remain present inside the discomfort. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifts. The pain does not disappear, but it softens. You realize that the fear you've been running from isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to protect you. The anxiety, the exhaustion, the collapse, they are signals, not enemies. Messages from a system that has been pushed beyond its limits. A quiet understanding emerges. What you are feeling is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you are human. This is the heart of radical acceptance. Not approval of suffering, but the willingness to meet it without resistance. When we stop fighting reality, the book whispers through your memory. We begin to find freedom. You see now how much energy you wasted trying to be different than you are, trying to outrun your own pain. The breaking point becomes a doorway. You notice your breath again, not forced, not controlled, just happening, in, out. The body responds to being acknowledged. Muscles release slightly. The mind quiets just enough to create space. In that space, compassion appears, not as a concept, but as a felt sense. You place a hand over your chest. The gesture feels small, almost meaningless. Yet something inside responds immediately. A warmth, a gentleness, a sense of being here for yourself in a way you never were before. You whisper words you've never said inwardly. It's okay. I'm here. Tears come is not dramatic, not overwhelming, but steady and honest. They carry grief for the years spent believing you had to earn your worth. Grief for the younger version of you who learned to hide their pain to survive. And with the grief comes relief. This is not the end of your struggle, but it is the end of pretending you don't have one. You understand now that inner calm is not something you achieve by force. It is something that emerges when you stop abandoning yourself. Strength is not found in endurance alone, but in presence, in turning toward what hurts instead of away from it. As the intensity of the breaking point settles, you feel different, not healed, not finished, but grounded. The world hasn't changed. Your responsibilities are still there. Your challenges remain, but something essential has shifted inside you. You no longer feel like you have to outrun your pain. You no longer believe that feeling deeply is a weakness. You no longer see collapse as failure. You sense that this moment, this breaking, is not something to recover from, but something to learn from. It is an initiation, a crossing, the moment you stop living on autopilot and begin to wake up. And as you gather yourself, still tender, still raw, you realize the next phase of your journey is waiting, because now that you have stopped running, something else is required of you, not fixing, not forcing, but turning inward deliberately, courageously to meet what you've been avoiding all along. The fear hasn't disappeared. It's still there, watching, waiting. But now, instead of running, you feel the urge to turn and face it. And that is where the next chapter begins. What if the thing you have been avoiding your entire life is not action, but stillness? What if the moment that changes everything is not when you push harder, but when you finally stop? The pause arrives without permission. After the breaking point, you expect urgency, answers, movement. Instead, you wake up to an unfamiliar quiet. Not peace, not relief, just absence. The absence of adrenaline, of panic, of the constant inner command to do something. It feels unsettling, like standing in the aftermath of a storm where debris hasn't settled yet. You don't know who you are without the noise. Your life slows, not because you planned it, but because you have no strength left to maintain the old pace. Mornings stretch longer. Evenings feel heavier. You notice things you never noticed before: the sound of your own breath, the way your shoulders lift when you're anxious, the subtle tension that never really leaves your body. The pause exposes everything you kept buried under movement. You try to fill it at first. You reach for your phone. You scroll. You distract. You almost succeed in pulling yourself back into the old rhythm. But something inside resists. The body resists. It remembers the breaking point. It refuses to be silenced again. So you sit. It feels wrong, unproductive, dangerous. You have been taught that pausing means falling behind, that stillness equals weakness, that if you stop moving, you will be swallowed by everything you've been holding back. The fear rises quickly. In the quiet, your thoughts grow louder. Doubts creep in. Regrets surface. Old memories knock without warning. A voice inside says, "This is why you stay busy." But another voice, quieter, steadier, answers, "This is why you must stay." You begin to understand something Tara Brach speaks of often: that pain deepens when it is ignored, but softens when it is met with presence. The pause is not an escape, it is an encounter, and encounters are rarely comfortable. You sit with your breath, not to calm it, just to notice it, in, out, sometimes shallow, sometimes rushed, sometimes steady. You notice how quickly your mind wants to fix, analyze, improve. You let those impulses rise and fall without obeying them. This is new territory. You feel clumsy, exposed, unsure. Moments stretch. Time feels unfamiliar without urgency driving it. The world outside continues: cars passing, voices in the distance, life unfolding, but inside, something fragile is forming. Awareness, raw and unfiltered. In this pause, you meet yourself without armor. You notice the way fear lives in your chest, not as a monster, but as a tight, protective knot. You notice how shame curls in your stomach, heavy and old. You notice grief sitting quietly behind your eyes, waiting. None of it explodes. None of it destroys you. It simply exists, and that realization changes something fundamental. For years, you believed that if you slowed down, everything would fall apart, that the emotions would overwhelm you, that the pain would consume you. But here you are, feeling, breathing, still alive. The pause does not break you, it holds you. You begin to see how rarely you have given yourself permission to simply be. No role, no performance, no proving, just presence. The pause becomes a mirror, showing you not who you should be, but who you already are beneath the striving. There are moments of resistance, days when the quiet feels unbearable, when you long for the old distractions, when your mind screams that you're wasting time. You almost listen. You almost go back, but something deeper keeps you here. Because within the pause, something unexpected emerges: kindness, not forced positivity, not motivation slogans, just a gentle inner response to your own pain. When fear arises, you don't attack it, you acknowledge it. When exhaustion surfaces, you don't shame yourself, you rest. These moments feel small, almost insignificant, yet they ripple outward, changing how you relate to yourself. You remember a line from the book, soft but powerful: "The willingness to turn toward our suffering is the beginning of freedom." You finally understand what it means. Freedom isn't the absence of pain, it's the end of running from it. The pause becomes sacred not because it is peaceful, but because it is honest. You start noticing how the world feels different when you're not rushing through it. Colors seem deeper, sounds clearer, even silence has texture. You realize how rarely you were truly present before, how often you lived in anticipation or regret rather than now. And then something subtle but profound happens. In the stillness, you feel a sense of being held, not by another person, not by circumstances, but by awareness itself, by the simple fact that you can witness your experience without being destroyed by it. The pause teaches you that you are not your thoughts, not your fear, not your pain. You are the space in which they arise. This insight doesn't arrive as a dramatic revelation. It settles quietly, like dust after a collapse. But once it settles, it changes how you see everything. You realize that calm is not something you chase. It is something that appears when resistance ends. The pause also shows you what must come next. You cannot stay here forever. Stillness is not the destination, it is preparation. The pause is where you gather strength, not the loud, aggressive kind, but the quiet kind that doesn't need to prove itself. You sense it now. The fear you once ran from is still there, but it feels different, less threatening, more human. It no longer feels like an enemy. It feels like a signal, a part of you asking to be seen. And that realization carries weight, because if you are willing to pause, to stay, to feel, then the next step is unavoidable. You'll have to turn fully toward the fear itself, not as something to conquer, but as something to understand. The pause has shown you that you can survive stillness. The next chapter will ask if you can survive honesty. As you breathe in the quiet one last time, you feel it approaching, the moment when you stop observing fear from a distance and finally meet it face to face.